What is up, everybody? It's me, the Radishologist. I hate my intro. I really need to come up with something, I don't know, better. Anyway, welcome back to another stream. Today is episode 6 of Radish's Movie Club, uh, where we talk about movies. Um, took a week off last week. I was doing it weekly, but I skipped last week. Dad, it's you, says Thomas. I didn't realize that was your dad. I thought I was I thought it was Andrew's dad. I thought you were Andrew's dad too. This is new information to me. Anyway, um, I'm thinking I'm gonna move Movie Club to doing every other week, just because I don't have enough time to watch a lot of movies every week. So every 2 weeks will be an episode of Movie Club, and then the week in between I'll play some other game or Minecraft or something. Don't know. Haven't figured that part out yet. But first we will talk about. I mean, this is an episode of Movie Club, so we got some good movies to talk about today. Actually, that's not really true. Most of the movies I'm going to talk about today are bad, or at least, well, maybe not most of them. Some of them are bad, some of them are decent, some of them are pretty good. So, um, there will be spoilers in this stream, so be aware of that. Um, yeah, and I'm going to play some Fall Guys while I talk about these movies, just so you guys have something to look at. And um, yeah, that's pretty much it. So, let's get into the movies. So, first off is a new movie that came out last month, like a couple weeks ago at this point, I think, called Beast, starring Idris Elba and some other people that I don't remember the names of because I forget easily. I also don't remember who directed it. Actually, I remember it was some really long name that I could not pronounce. Um, but yeah, this movie is basically a thriller slash horror movie about a dad and his family. They are on a safari in Africa, and a rogue lion is hunting them, basically. Which isn't normal for lions to be on their own and just hunting people. So, hang on. Why is Fall Guys not working? Oh, never mind, it is working. It was taking longer than normal. Um, yeah, so Beasts. I went to see this in the theater because it came out in theaters. It was not streaming or anything. Um, and I actually enjoyed it for the most part. It wasn't a terrible movie, but it wasn't like an amazing movie either. I see a lot of people online saying that it's really bad, but I liked it for what it is, at least. It's a very simple story, about a lion hunting down people. Like, I'm kind of surprised that movie hasn't been, like, that premise hasn't been done before. Um, because it's so simple, a lion hunting people. Like, why has no one thought of that? I mean, I'm sure people have made that into a movie before, but this is the first one, at least in the mainstream media, that I've heard of. Um, unless you count The Lion King, but I do not. Um, it's kind of similar to Jaws in a way, because Jaws is about a shark hunting down people. Um, but it's not nearly as good as Jaws. I mean, Jaws is a classic. It's like the biggest blockbuster of all time, So can't really compare Beast to it in that sense because Beast doesn't do anything new or groundbreaking. But it follows a simple story. A what's the word? I just had the word in my head. I don't remember. Simple story though. Follows a formula, I guess is what I was thinking of, but not terribly, like not in a bad way. It uses the Jaws formula, so the formula clearly works. Let me think. So, the acting was pretty good. Idris Elba is a star, and he's usually really good in everything that he's in. So, he did great. He had two daughters in this movie who also were great. They're teenagers in the movie. I think the actresses are probably teenagers too. So it's impressive that they did as well as they did, um, because you know they're teenagers. Um, they all put on great performances, and so did the South African tour guy that was with them. He was pretty good too. And those are really the only four characters that show up more than once. Everyone else is just like a side character or dies. Um, so these four characters all put on great performances. Um, but yeah, let's see. I really like the father-daughter relationship between Idris Elba and his daughters. I feel like I feel like I just really like relationships between family members in movies. Every time that is in a movie, I'm always talking about it. There's another movie that I'm about to get to that has one of those too, father-son relationship. And it's just really nice to see families in movies overcome their problems and, you know, grow to love each other. I'm a family man, you know, so I like that. I'm a family guy. I'm Peter Griffin. That was a terrible joke. Don't cut that out of the stream, please. um, but yeah, the relationship between the father and the daughter as it develops throughout the film, because she's mad at him at the beginning because he neglected their mom until she died, or before she died. And so she's mad at him, and then they grow as the lion's attacking them. They're bonding, you know, as one does. So yeah, that was really well done, I think. Um, the CGI in this movie is also really good. The lions look fantastic. I assume they're not real lions. I don't think. I wonder if there's been any cases of movies using real lions like in history. I would imagine probably not. I mean, maybe like circus lions. Um, but it's probably not very humane to use lions in movies because you can't really train a lion to be an actor, I don't think. Maybe you can. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. But yeah, assuming these lions are CGI, they look really good. The rogue lion, especially, is very menacing, very intimidating, and it's easily recognizable compared to the other lions that are in the movie, which is good because if it wasn't distinguishable from the rest, you would just be like, oh, that's just another lion. But every time it shows up, you know that's the evil lion. Every scene it does show up is also really cool. Like there are scenes where it shows up in the background, and like your heart kind of skips a beat every time it happens because you know what's about to happen. But yeah, so the lion, very very menacing. There's a couple jump scares with it too that actually work pretty well. Not too many jump scares, which is a good thing. Too many jump scares is not really a good thing. But yeah, they do a decent amount of jump scares, I think. The score, which is like the soundtrack of the movie, not really that great, I don't think. I mean, it's nothing memorable, so you know, not much to comment on there. But the camera work is very memorable, I think. They use a lot of really long moving shots, which is kind of common in movies when they want to, you know, make the camera look good. But in this movie specifically, I don't really know how to describe it. It's just very, it builds up the tension the whole time. It's in most of the scenes where the lion is about to show up or has shown up, so there's no cuts, so your heart starts to race as the camera just keeps panning to different, you know, parts of the scene. And it's also pretty impressive because most of the time when the camera doesn't cut, it's just one take, so the actors can't mess up or anything. I mean, there's ways to hide cuts, so maybe they did actually cut sometimes, so the actors didn't have to do everything perfectly, like the whole scene perfectly. But there's a lot of scenes where it's like, it looks like it's one take, and the actors do great jobs. So that was really impressive, I think. And that's the one thing this movie has over Jaws, because I don't think Jaws really does that. Jaws is nothing special about the camera work, I don't think. But yeah, So those are all the good things about the movie. I mean, the story is simple. Um, I got relatively upset when the Safari guide died. I mean, I was expecting it because they weren't going to kill off any of the daughters or the main characters. So I figured that he was the only main character who could die, and he did. But it was in a heroic way, so that was kind of cool. Even though it didn't work, what he did, he sacrificed himself to kill the lion, but it didn't kill the lion. He like blew up a truck with him in it. I knew it wouldn't kill it either because the movie wasn't over. I was like, this is gonna come back. But yeah, so kind of tugs on your heartstrings a little. Um, there's a couple bad things about the movie. I mean, not necessarily bad, but a couple times. There's like 3 or 4 times in this movie where it cuts to some weird, like, vision that the protagonist is having of his wife who has died. It's like hard to see. It looks like it's in Africa somewhere, some like rock formation, and he's just like looking for his wife, and he's like, "Hey, come back," and he can't find her until the end, like when he almost dies. And I never really understand how that fits into the story. Like, he didn't do anything to. I mean, I guess he feels bad that he left her / neglected her, so he's having visions of her, and is trying to reconcile with her even though she's dead. I don't really know. It was just kind of weird, and it was because it wasn't really the rest of the movie's so grounded and realistic. I mean, I guess it's not really realistic for a lion to hunt like that, but realistic, like, definitely nothing weird going on. But then there's these visions that he's having, which aren't. I mean, I guess they're dreams, but they also, I don't really know. Don't know. Well, it was just kind of weird. And I mean, the only other bad thing that I thought of really was the ending. It was kind of anticlimactic. I mean, I knew it was going to happen. Like, the whole movie is pretty predictable, honestly, but it still works, I think. Oh. But what they do in the ending, so basically, this is a spoiler. The protagonist, he has the evil lion, chase him. Oh! Ava has gifted a tier 1 sub to John. Nice. Cool. Wait. Oh, okay, cool. Nice, thank you for the gifted sub. Or should John be saying thank you? I don't really know. I don't really know how gifting sub works. Hello. How's it going? I was watching your stream earlier. I just kind of had it on in the background, but I liked the vibes. John hasn't seen it yet. Okay, cool. So so that means he's subscribed, but you paid for his subscription or something. That's cool. Well, thank you for doing that for him and for me. I am doing my movie club stream. That's okay. Thank you for stopping by. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I'm doing my movie club thing where I talk about movies. I'd like to do that every other week-ish. So if you're interested in that. I was just talking, what movie was I talking about? Oh, I was talking about Beast, which is a new movie about a lion hunting down Idris Elba and his family. It's a pretty good movie. Let's see, what was I saying about it? Oh yeah, I was talking about the ending. Oh, I lost Fall Guys, darn. Yeah, so the ending is kind of anticlimactic because he takes the lion to be killed by a bunch of other lions, basically. I have not seen the movie before. Yeah, I think I've been having this problem where I've been talking about these movies that no one else has seen because I'm always like the first one to see movies, so I don't really know. Still working on the format of this. So there will be spoilers, but if you don't care, then you can stick around. If you do care, then you should leave. But yeah, I just kind of like to ramble about movies. I'm a big film buff, or trying to be a film buff. I watched a lot of movies. I started watching every movie I could once quarantine started 2 years ago, and I haven't stopped. So yeah, I don't care much. I'll probably forget about the spoilers once I end up seeing it. Cool. Yeah, that's how I usually am. I see spoilers online about movies, and then I just forget. which is a good thing. um, but yeah, I'm a big movie lover, which is why that's part of the reason why I started streaming, because I wanted to talk about movies with people. Um, hasn't really worked yet because most people that I watch have not seen the movies, but it's whatever. Um, but yeah, so the ending of Beast, he takes the lion to this other lion den and has those lions kill it. But he's first fights it like in hand-to-hand combat, which is kind of cool to see. Just Elba fighting a lion with his fists. But it's not really realistic because he would have died like immediately, I think. Because everyone else in the movie dies immediately once the lion gets to them. Um, but it was still cool, I don't know. And it's kind of unavoidable for the final fight because you have to have the protagonist fight the antagonist at the end of the movie. Um, so But it's anticlimactic because after he fights it and then the other lions start fighting it, he like fades to black because he has gone unconscious from the lion. And you don't see the other lions finish off the evil lion. And after how cool that evil lion was, you kind of want to see it be taken down by other lions, but you don't see it. It happens off screen, which is unfortunate. That's okay. Soon enough, you will have a community that can talk about movies. Yeah, thank you. I'm planning on it and working on it. Um, should be fun. Um, what was I saying? Oh yeah, and then so the lion dying off screen is kind of dumb, but the rest of the movie is pretty good, I think. Um, so let me think. I think that was all I had about that movie. It's very Jaws-esque kind of movie, but like newer because Jaws is from the 70s, and it's about a lion and not a shark. But it's a decent thriller movie. So if you like thrillers, if you like to have your heart racing and be on the edge of your seat while watching movies, then I would recommend seeing it because it's pretty good at doing those things for people. Um, hmm. So I gave it a 7 out of 10. I like to rate my movies. I think most people give it a lower score and they don't really like it as much as I do, but I thought it was solid. John does, me not so much. Oh, okay. Well, yeah, you should tell him to go see it. It's a good film. A decent film, I should say. Not amazing, but not terrible. That's true about a lot of movies these days. The next movie I'm going to talk about is in the same boat, I think. I lost Fall Guys again. But if it's on Netflix / Disney Plus, we'll definitely watch it with him. It's not on either of those. It's in theaters right now. I think it probably will be. I don't know if it's Netflix. I don't remember which company owns it, so I don't know which streaming service it'll be on. Definitely it's not Disney. I think it might be Universal, which is Peacock, I think. I don't really remember. It's hard to keep track of. There's so many streaming services these days, so I have no idea. But it will be streaming eventually. Still in theaters right now. It's a cool experience in the movie theater, I think. Soon enough, it will be on a streaming service. Yeah, exactly. That's how most movies are these days, or I guess all movies. It kind of feels like a movie that would go straight to a streaming service and not be in theaters. But I'm more of a fan of movie theaters, so I'm glad that it is in the theater. I forgot that I lost Fall Guys, so I had to leave. Anyway, so yeah, that is all I have about Beast. So the next movie I'm going to talk about is a classic movie from 1995. It's called The Usual Suspects. I don't know if you've seen this one, Ava. I think it's more of a film buff movie for people to watch. Not really something that everyone has seen, but it's a classic. So I think it's pretty good. I watched this about a month ago though, so I might forget everything about it, or not everything, but some things about it. But The Usual Suspects is a crime drama film starring Kevin Spacey and Benicio del Toro and some other people that I don't remember the names of. It's about these 5 different criminals who are thrown together in a lineup because there was a crime and they don't know who it was. The police doesn't know who it was, so they narrow it down to these 5 people, and then these 5 people um, become a group, a crime group basically, um, to pull off, you know, crimes for money. I think I don't, I can't remember um, exactly what they do. They steal stuff, kill people. I don't know. They're like bounty hunters, sort of. um, and then the movie starts at the end of the movie, and the main character Kevin Spacey is recounting what happened because he's the only one who survived, like a battle on a boat or something like that. Something I don't remember. Um, so this movie is pretty good. It's a classic, so I can't really say it's bad. I feel like it's a crime to call a classic movie bad. I was kind of bored during it. I get bored during movies easily. I mean, at least slow movies, especially older movies, usually have slower paces, so it's kind of slow at times. But I think the plot is decent enough to be interested in it. And then the plot twist at the end, they do kind of like a double plot twist, which definitely makes it worth it. And for some reason I didn't see it coming, even though thinking back on it, it's pretty obvious what the plot twist is. um, so, should I spoil it? I mean, there are going to be spoilers in these streams, so I'm going to spoil it. Yep, I am the same. Oh yeah, you get bored during movies easily. Yeah, it's kind of a problem for me because I'm a film buff, so I like watching a lot of movies, especially classic movies, and a lot of classic movies are slow. Um, I talked about this in one of my earlier streams. I watched Blade Runner, which is like a huge sci-fi movie that everyone has seen, and I hated it because it was so slow. I almost fell asleep. I think I did fall asleep actually, and I never fall asleep in movies. So yeah, it's kind of a problem, but oh well. But yeah, so in The Usual Suspects, kind of slow, but decent enough for me to stay interested. Um, and the plot twist at the end makes it all worth it because you find out that the main character, who seems like this lame loser guy who just happened to get thrown together with all these big criminals, he's actually the mastermind behind everything and has been a huge crime boss. And the police detective at the end figures it out right after he leaves, and then he disappears forever. And I don't think I did it justice by explaining it like that, but if you watch it, you see that plot twist, you won't be surprised anymore because I just told you, but unless you forget. But it made my jaw drop, honestly. And what they do at first is they do a fake out plot twist where he's like, oh, it was this guy, which is one of the other members of the group, and you're not really expecting that. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then a couple minutes later, they're like, just kidding, it was the main character the whole time. And you're like, whoa, dude, it's crazy. I did not see that coming. I mean, I think some people probably see it coming because it's the main character. But I did not see it coming because I'm dumb. I don't see things coming often. Actually, I usually do, honestly. So I'm kind of surprised I didn't see that one coming. I don't know. But that just means it's good if they're able to do a plot twist that I don't see coming. Let's see. What else did I say about this movie? Oh, I really liked the character interactions between the 5 main characters because they all have their distinct personalities. And it's always cool to see, different personalities clash like that. All their argument scenes were very interesting to watch, I think. And watching them do the crimes together, like when they killed that one dude in the car, was pretty cool. I really like Benicio del Toro's character. It's a shame he got killed off so easily. This was before he was like a big movie star, I think. So that's why he is not in the movie as much. I think this might have been where he got his start. I don't really know. I didn't look it up at all. But yeah, I really liked his character. I did not like that there were so many different police officer characters though. There's like the two main ones, or maybe three. There's Giancarlo Esposito is in it. He's a lead detective or something, and then there's this other detective who's interviewing the dude, and then there's another cop that's kind of important. And I feel like all three of those characters could have just been rolled into one because their part of the story is not as important. Yeah, for me, I think my brain purposefully tries not to overthink about any potential plot twist. So when it happens, I get super shocked. Lol. Yeah, that's good. I like. It's always good to be shocked by plot twists. My brain overthinks during movies a lot. Um, but I don't know. I didn't see that one coming. But yeah, the police officer characters, it felt like there were too many of them. It could have just been one character doing all the investigating and interviewing and all that, and figuring it all out at the end. And it should have been Giancarlo Esposito, because he's a great actor. Um, Although the other dude, the interviewing guy who figured out Kevin Spacey's character was the main villain at the end, um, he was pretty good, I think. Um, yeah, it's also interesting that your protagonist actually turns out to have been a villain the whole time. That's not something that happens often in movies. And he wasn't, I mean, I guess he was never really a good guy because he was doing crimes too. But all the main characters were doing crimes. So, but yeah, it was cool. It's a classic movie, so can't say it's bad. I also really like the editing in this movie, especially at the end. There's the ending scene where the detective is figuring out, like he's putting all the pieces together, figuring out that the main character was lying to him the whole time and he was the villain. The editing during that scene is really cool because they pull different lines from the whole movie and different footage, and they all edit it all together, and it just makes a really interesting revelation for the main character. So that was pretty cool, I think. I don't think there was anything special about the score or the cinematography, if I remember correctly. The acting was pretty good. I don't think I remember any bad acting, so that's good news. And you know, it's also interesting, the director, this was directed by Bryan Singer, who also directed the X-Men movies, and this is very different from an X-Men movie. Except for maybe the fact, like maybe the aspect of different characters with different personalities interacting, I guess. He also directed Bohemian Rhapsody, which I talked about last stream, which is also interesting. So it's weird how Bryan Singer has such a wide variety of movies that he's directed. He did The Usual Suspects, which is a crime drama. He did several of the X-Men films, which are, you know, superhero movies. He did Bohemian Rhapsody, which is a musical biopic. So yeah, it's impressive, I think. None of these movies have been like amazing though. Oh, I think he did. Did he do X-Men First Class? I don't remember. I really liked X-Men First Class. So if he did that, then that was amazing. Bohemian Rhapsody wasn't that great, and The Usual Suspects was pretty good. I wasn't really a fan. I mean, I wouldn't say it's amazing, but it's a classic, so you know. Although, I do give it an 8 out of 10 overall, which is higher than Beast got, which was a 7. And I think I enjoyed Beast more, which is interesting. Maybe my reviews are biased for movies that are considered classics. I don't know. But yeah, I think that's probably all I have to say about The Usual Suspects. This is also where they get the meme from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, I think it is, where they're like, sing the, what is it, I Want It That Way song? Is that what it's called? I Want It That Way? I think so. And they sing it all in a lineup to figure out who was the criminal. That's a reference to this movie where there's the 5 criminals are in a lineup and they have to say a line or something. Don't really remember. Yes, by the Backstreet Boys. Yeah, that's what it is. I knew I was forgetting their name. But yes, that's where they get that scene from. I think. I mean, I assume so. I'm pretty sure, because if you can see on the poster I have at the bottom left, that's like a lineup, and that's what it looked like in that scene. That's a good scene. That scene's probably better than the scene in this movie. Maybe I shouldn't say that. Maybe that's offensive to film buffs. But yeah, that's I think that's all for the usual suspects. Again, I gave it an 8 out of 10, which is pretty good. But now we're gonna move on to a movie that is not pretty good. I actually think is terrible. It's called Kindergarten Cop. You may have heard of this one. It stars. Oh, I lost Fall Guys again. I don't even remember doing that. Um, this movie stars Arnold Schwarzenegger. Schwarzenegger. It's about a undercover cop who has to pose as a kindergarten teacher to track down a bad guy, basically. Um, this is a classic too. It's from 1990-ish, I think. I think it's 1990. Um, my dad was surprised that I hated this movie because he said he remembers liking it when he grew up. Well, I guess he wasn't growing up. How old was he? He was in his 30s, I guess. No, he wasn't. 20s, 30s, 30s. Yeah. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, the movie's just bad. I don't like it. It may be considered a classic, but I think it's a bad classic. There are some bad classics out there, I think. Um, I don't feel as bad for hating this movie because most people don't really like it, I think. But it's just, the movie is really campy. It's not really funny. The plot is boring, unoriginal. I mean, well, the premise of the kindergarten cop thing is original, but um, the plot of him tracking down the killer is not, or the bad guy is not original. John says, "Thank you so much to Ava friend." Yeah, no, I was um, very surprised that she gifted that to you. Well, I guess I wouldn't say surprised, but it's cool that she did that. Hey, you got the emojis. Yeah, those just got approved like today, I think. Um, they're emotes that my friends made on a Discord server we had like a year ago, and I was like, oh, I'll just reuse them for my Twitch. So I think they're pretty cool. Pretty cool emojis. I like how they look in chat. um, but yes, thanks to Ava for gifting John the sub. That's my first gifted sub, I think. I have two people who have subbed, but they didn't gift subs. So cool. Anyway, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, Kindergarten Cop. Not a good movie. I feel like the premise of a cop posing as a kindergarten teacher is funny for like a skit or a short film or something along those lines. But the movie's like over 2 hours, and it just gets old after a while, and it's just not really funny enough. Um, I mean, it's kind of cute to see Arnold interacting with these children, you know, because he's a big, strong dude who grows to love these kids that he's teaching. But, I don't know. It's not really something I need to watch 2 hours of. And the plot's pretty absurd, too. Like, just the things that happen with the kindergartners and Arnold. It's just, I don't know, I was just laughing at how dumb it was a lot of the time. I also thought the acting was pretty bad, which is surprising because Arnold is such a great actor in movies like, you know, Predator and The Terminator, stuff like that. But I don't think this was his fault. I think his acting was bad in this movie because the writing was bad. Like his lines, there was a lot of like one-liners and like zingers that, like, there's just too many of them, and they just felt too campy and unfunny, and they just did not work in my opinion. And they also have these kids saying like this really raunchy stuff sometimes, which is not something you should have kids saying. Like they're saying stuff about genitals and other things that I don't want to mention, and they play it off for laughs. They're like, "Ha, this kid knows about this. That's funny," and he makes Arnold, you know, I don't know, hate his job. But I thought, they should not have made the child actors say those things. I mean, I'm sure they didn't care because they didn't know what they were talking about, but still, it just feels wrong to make children say things like that. um, You can make Arnold say whatever though. I don't care unless it's not funny, which is what most of this movie was. Like there's like a scene where he like puts his hands on his head in like surprise, you know, like they do in cartoons. Um, and it just I don't know, it just that sums up how I guess yeah, the movie is pretty cartoonish for a live action movie that should not be cartoonish. Um, so yeah, it's weird. What did I say there? Oh, I wrote down notes about the movies. I'm trying to I read my own handwriting. I wrote too harsh with a question mark because I don't know if I'm being too harsh on this movie. Um, because I talked to my dad the other day. He was like, "Did you really think it was that bad?" I remember liking it. He was like, "I'll have to rewatch it to see what you're talking about." I was like, "Yeah, I don't know. I just didn't like it." Um, I gave it like a really bad score. I gave it a 2 out of 10, which is very low for me. So I don't know if I'm being harsh, but I didn't like it. And also, there's this scene. So in this movie, Arnold has a partner in crime. Well, not crime because he's the cop. Undercover partner who's another cop. She lives with him, but she's sick most of the time, so she can't do anything. Um, they don't have any romantic chemistry between them at all because he meets a girl or a lady who's a teacher at the school. They have the romantic chemistry, so they become a thing. And then at the end of the movie, his partner gets hurt or something in the final fight, and he's like with her in the hospital. Or actually, wait, or is he the one that got hurt? I don't remember. No, I think he was the one who got hurt. And she's with him in the hospital, and she's like, "You did good," and then she kisses him on the lips, even though previously in the movie it was revealed she has a fiance who actually walks into this scene after she kisses him like 2 seconds later. And Arnold had this chemistry with this other teacher which she knows about. She actually helped set them up on a date. Um, so why did she kiss him is basically what I'm saying. Like, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I mean, the only thing I can think of is it was a friendly kiss, but she kissed him on the lips. It wasn't like full on making out or anything, but it's like, you know, you don't kiss your friends on the lips, do you? Unless it's the homies kissing them goodnight. um, yeah, I just thought it was weird. I mean, it was the 90s, so maybe it was a different time. Maybe they kissed their friends on the lips back then. I don't really know. It doesn't make sense to me, but maybe they did that. um, so yeah, it was bizarre. The whole movie is bizarre, basically. Um, I don't think I would recommend it. I mean, you can watch it if you want to like make fun of it, but it's not even something you can put on to like show your kids or anything if you have kids. Like, because there's too many um, R-rated jokes and R-rated action. Like, there's blood and gunfights and stuff. So there's stuff that kids shouldn't be seeing. And then there's also these jokes that like kids would laugh at, like physical humor, like the kids tackling Arnold Schwarzenegger. Um, Funny animals and stuff that kids would laugh at. So it's like they have all this stuff for kids that they could laugh at, and then stuff that they shouldn't be able to see, and then also stuff that adults wouldn't laugh at but that they can see. So it's like they're trying to market this movie to two different audiences, but it doesn't work for either. It didn't work for me, who's someone in the middle of children and adults, I guess. But yeah, it's just a weird movie. Fall Guys is not working for some reason. Is it my Wi-Fi? I thought my Wi-Fi was fine. No, my Wi-Fi is fine. Why is it not working? I know I'm supposed to just talk about movies. I'm not supposed to talk about Fall Guys, but I don't know what's going on. Work, please, Fall Guys. I have to give them something to watch while I ramble about movies. They don't want to just look at my face the whole time. Anyway, there's also apparently a Kindergarten Cop 2, which doesn't have the same characters at all. It came out in 2016 or something like that. But it stars Dolph Lundgren, however you pronounce his name. The boxer wrestler dude. I don't really know what it's about. I mean, if it has the same premise or what. I assume it does. But I heard it's even worse. which is funny. Oh, good, Fall Guys is working. Which is funny because I hated Kindergarten Cop. I gave it a 2 out of 10. So if I watch the second one and it's worse than the first one, I guess I would give it a 1 out of 10. I don't know. Um, I'm not planning on watching it. um, unless you guys want me to, but I don't really want to. I meant to set up a thing on my stream where you can donate bits or whatever to suggest a movie for me to watch to review next time, but I forgot to do that. So I'll have that set up for next episode, which will be in 2 weeks because I'm gonna start doing Radish's Movie Club every other week, as I mentioned at the beginning of my stream. So maybe in 2 weeks you guys can suggest what movie I watch next. That'll be cool. But yeah, that's all I have for Kindergarten Cop. I do not recommend it, unless you want to make fun of it with your friends, which is something I have done with my friends before, so I totally understand if you want to do that. But the next movie is also pretty bad. Surprisingly, I gave it a better score than Kindergarten Cop. But this movie is a new movie. It's called Secret Headquarters. It came out last month on Paramount Plus, like a straight-to-streaming movie. This movie stars Owen Wilson, Walker Scobell, and Louise Pena, and some other people. It's about a kid and his group of friends who find out that the kid's father, who is never around, is secretly a superhero. And they find his secret headquarters, and then they accidentally disclose his location or the base's location to the bad guys who want the superhero's energy source. So that's the premise. Pretty generic. And that's basically what I'm going to be saying a lot in this section of the stream, because this movie is very generic. I mean, even the title is generic. It's just called Secret Headquarters. Like, they couldn't come up with a better name. I mean, I can't come up with one. I feel like they could have done something else. I don't know. Like, you don't really. I don't know. It's the set piece of the movie. Most of the movie actually takes place in the secret headquarters. So maybe that's why they named it that, but it's just, I don't know, it feels weird to me. It's just, it's generic. But the whole movie is generic, so you know. So yeah, the movie is just bad in general, basically. It feels like it belongs on Disney Channel. Like, not Disney Plus, Disney Channel. Like, it's a Disney Channel original movie. It has production value similar to Spy Kids from the early 2000s, I think, and maybe Sky High, which is also early 2000s. I don't know, it's just, the acting is cringe, Disney-fied. There's nothing special about any of the technical stuff in it. The plot is generic and not really interesting. The humor is sometimes funny, but it's most of the time geared towards kids, which is understandable, I guess. Did I lose Fall Guys? I did. So, yeah, it's not a good movie. The only reason I really watched it is because I actually have a friend who worked on it, like on the crew. So good for her. She was just on the camera crew or something, moving things around, so nothing that's her fault. Like, the movie being bad is not her fault. She just went there to get paid. So that was really the only reason I watched the movie, to see something she worked on and see her name in the credits. But yeah, I regret watching the movie. It's just, I don't know. Disney Channel original movie is what it feels like. I think the only reason they made this movie is because of the trend of superhero movies being so popular these days. So they wanted to cash in on that superhero money. Because, the MCU has become like the most successful movie franchise of all times. MCU being Marvel Cinematic Universe, if you don't know that. With like over 20, almost 30 films that have been critical and financial successes for the most part. Paramount actually owned the MCU at first. They released their first 4 or 5 movies, like the first in the MCU, like Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, Iron Man 2, and the Avengers. They were the ones who released all those movies, and then Disney bought it from them. So Disney released the rest of the movies, and that's when it became a multi-billion-dollar franchise. So Paramount probably misses that sweet Marvel money, basically. So they decided to try their own original superhero idea to um, put right on their streaming service because it's a new streaming service. So they want to entice people to get their service. And it worked for me. I mean, not really. I just got a free trial to watch it. But they got me to watch it, so I guess it works there. But it's not a good superhero movie at all. I forget what I was gonna say. I had something in my head. I lost my train of thought though. Yeah, they miss superhero movies having good ones. So they tried this and it did not work. The acting, as I said, is bad. Walker Scobell plays the main kid named Charlie, who's the son of the superhero. And he was really good in the Adam Project, I think, which is a new movie that came out this year too. And the kid's like, what, 13 or something? So I don't know, he might have been 11 when they filmed, 11 or 12. So it's impressive that he did so well in the Adam Project. But in this movie, he's not good. Not very compelling at all, unfortunately. And I don't think it's his fault. I think it's the script's fault. The script is just god awful. All the lines, well, not all the lines, but many of the lines made me cringe. Jokes were not that funny. It's just, so it's not his fault that the movie's bad. But he's going to be Percy Jackson in the new Percy Jackson series that's coming up on Disney Plus in a couple years. I don't know when it's coming out. So I hope he's good in that. He was good in the Adam Project. So he should be good in Percy Jackson if the script is good. But he couldn't save the script of Secret Headquarters from being bad. And then Owen Wilson, who has been in so many good movies, I think. I haven't actually seen him in any besides like Cars, the Pixar Cars movie. He is also bad in this movie, but it's not his fault again, it's the script. Like the acting, I don't know, his acting is just not good because the writing isn't good. Every time you have bad writing in a movie, you have bad acting, and every time you have bad acting, you have a bad movie. It's just how it goes. And then Luis Pena, who is the villain in this movie. He's best known for his role as Ant-Man. I mean, not Ant-Man, he's in Ant-Man as the sidekick who like talks too fast and too long. He's really funny in that movie, in those movies. But in this movie, he has some funny lines, but it's not enough for him to show his real charm, you know? So he also feels wasted. I mean, everyone in the movie feels wasted. There is one funny scene between him and Owen Wilson. At the end, they're fighting, and Luis Pena's character opens up the suit that he's in and is like, "God, it's so hot in here. How do you do this?" or something, which I thought was funny. But I had seen that in a advertisement, so they put the only good part of the movie in the advertisement. I mean, I guess that's how it works, but you know, I don't know. And then the rest of the kids in this movie were also pretty cringe, especially Abby James Witherspoon, who is probably only an actress because she's Reese Witherspoon's niece, and Hollywood is full of nepotism, which I hate. I mean, I'm fine with it if the actors are good. There's a lot of good nepotism actors, but there's some bad ones like this girl. I mean, I don't know, she's a kid, so I guess I shouldn't really be complaining that much, but I don't know, it's just, I mean, it's the writing's fault too, I guess. So maybe I shouldn't be dogging on her for that, because the other kids aren't good either. I actually did kind of like Mamona Tamata's character, who's kind of like the love interest, even though they're like kids in this movie. She performed pretty well, despite how bad the script is, I think. And her relationship with Walker Scobell's character, Charlie, is pretty cute, I think. I don't think they needed to kiss at the end because they're children, but you know, I guess it was cool to see. But yeah, I liked their relationship and the development, and I liked her acting. But she was really the only acting that I did like in this movie. Everyone else was not good because of the writing again. Um, and then there's also the whole second act of this movie takes place in the secret headquarters, which I get because that's what the movie's called. But like the scene, usually the second act of the movie is like the longest part, and there's multiple scenes of the characters, you know, progressing the plot, obviously. But most of that in this movie happens in one singular setting, with different characters, you know, coming in and out of the scene, um, and they don't specify the limitations of this secret headquarters, like how big it is, how many, because it seems like it goes on forever. I don't know. um, it's like it's a whole 45 minutes or something like that. I was counting during the movie, like a whole 45 minutes of them in that location, and it just feels like it could have been, I don't know, it could have moved to a different setting, especially because the secret headquarters themselves look so bland and full of CGI. Um, Along with the weapons that they use, or the tools or whatever, those are very overpowered for one thing. Like the writers can just make them do whatever they want, I guess. Like there's literally a portal to another location on the Earth, which doesn't make any sense. I mean, I guess it's alien technology, so anything can make sense, but still. And so yeah, and also that those tools still feel ripped off from like other superhero franchises like Marvel and DC. So I don't know. It's just not a good movie. Don't watch it. Not worth it. Maybe, well, okay. If you have children that know about superhero movies, but they're not really like ready to see some of the movies, like some Marvel and DC movies have darker-ish. I mean, I know they're not dark, but darker-ish scenes, like fight scenes and violence. Some kids, I guess, aren't ready for that. You know, like kids under 12, but old enough to understand what superheroes are. They could probably watch this movie because there's nothing dark in this film. Well, actually, they do kill one dude off screen, but that didn't seem necessary now that I think about it, or it feels like out of place in this movie. But besides that, there's nothing really dark. So I think little kids would be able to enjoy this movie because they don't have any critical thinking skills yet. So it might be good for them to, you know, just sit down and watch. Or have it on in the background for them. I don't know. So that's like the one positive of this movie, besides also Tamada's performance. And there's one other thing: the father-son relationship is kind of decent. As I was saying earlier, I like family relationships in movies. The father-daughter relationship in Beast was pretty good. The father-son relationship in Secret Headquarters was alright, at least. I mean, it brings some emotion to the movie, so it's not a complete disaster. But the main problem with that is that Owen Wilson's barely even in the movie, and he's the dad. And it's funny because he's like the leading star that they used to advertise the movie. I mean, because he's the biggest name in it, obviously. But he's absent for most of the film, because most of the film is the second act when the kids are finding the secret headquarters, and as they're doing that, the superhero is off on a mission and doesn't even realize that they broke in until the third act, basically. So yeah, Owen Wilson is like on the biggest person on the poster and the advertisements, and is barely in the movie. But when he is in the movie, seeing him and his son interact is nice. You know, I like to see the relationship develop because Charlie, the kid, is pretty mad at his dad for never being around, but then he realizes it's because he's a superhero, so he forgives him, and then they grow to bond some more and eventually become a father-son crime-fighting superhero duo at the end, which seems a bit irresponsible to bring your child on your superhero missions, but you know, you don't have to think about it. It's the end of the movie. Just be happy that they killed the bad guy. And yeah, that's another dark thing. I mean, it's only dark if you think about it. They transport the bad guy, Luis Pena, to like some void realm or something. Like he has no idea where he is. And it's just like, he's like, hey, where am I? And then he's just stuck there forever for the rest of his life. Like, that's kind of dark to think about. He's going to starve to death there. Or die of thirst. um, and also, it's weird. At the end of the movie, I thought they like destroyed his power source or whatever. And that's what sent the villain to the void realm or whatever. But then the dad and his son are still doing the crime fighting stuff, still have all that technology, so I guess they didn't destroy it. I don't know. Maybe I just missed it. No idea. All I know is I didn't like the movie. Um, and you should not watch it. However, I liked it slightly more than Kindergarten Cop for some reason. I gave it a 3 out of 10 instead of a 2 out of 10, which is what I gave Kindergarten Cop. So again, if you have small children that want to watch the superhero movie, you can put this on for them. But otherwise, don't bother. Although you would have to get Paramount Plus to show your children this, and Paramount Plus is not really worth getting in my opinion. They don't really have, I mean, I guess they have SpongeBob, so maybe that's something you can get for your kids. SpongeBob, Secret Headquarters, you know, because nobody watches cable anymore, which is what I used to watch SpongeBob on as a kid. Yeah, I'm old, aren't I? No one really has it anymore, I don't think. I mean, I don't. So if I want to watch SpongeBob, I gotta get Paramount Plus. But I'm not renewing my free trial because not worth it. Secret Headquarters was bad and it makes me not want to use Paramount Plus ever again. Except just kidding, because Paramount is the ones that made Top Gun Maverick, which is the best movie of the year. So, I don't know, maybe I gotta rethink that. They got some good movies, they got some terrible movies, basically, is what I'm saying. So yeah, Secret Headquarters, not a good film. Don't watch it, unless you have children. I think that's all I have to say about it. Gave it a 3 out of 10 again. Now let's move on to something much better than all of the movies I have talked about so far, and all of the movies that I will talk about on today's stream. This movie is called Once Upon a Time in the West, and it is a classic film from 1968. I think. Something like that. Which is the year my parents were born. I didn't really need to mention that, but whatever. This is like a classic spaghetti western. Spaghetti western is a... Wait, is it a spaghetti western or is it just a western? Spaghetti western is like the Italian version of western movies or something. But I don't think it's from Italy. I don't remember the term. Maybe it's not spaghetti western. But it's a classic western film. If you think of western movies, like the classic western movie trope, most of those tropes came from this movie, like the standoffs or showdowns, you know, the long desert shots, anything, basically anything about a western movie you can think of came from this movie. I think. I actually don't know that for sure, but I'm pretty sure. And there's also The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, which is another classic western film. I don't know if that came out before or after Once Upon a Time in the West. No idea. I really should do research more often, but I don't. But anyway, so this movie stars, I don't remember any of the actors' names because they're all old and don't act anymore. Because, you know, it was the 60s. But it's directed by... I forget that too. It's some name that I should recognize. Oh, Sergio Leone. Which is an Italian name, so maybe it is a spaghetti western. I don't know. I just watched this movie like last week and I already forget everything about it. I mean, I didn't really research about it then, but whatever. Anyway, this movie is about, let's see, it's kind of hard to explain what it's about. A widow, her land is, she recently becomes the owner of a large plot of land, which is rich in, or what, I don't remember. It's not rich in gold, but it's like a railroad is about to go past it, so it's rich in the fact that there will be lots of people going past it. And then 3 different people want it, basically. Well, 2 people want it, and then there's this one good guy who is chasing one of the bad guys who wants it because of something he did when he was a kid. He's out for revenge, but you don't find that out until the end. Which that was a pretty good reveal at the end. But first, let's talk about just the movie in general. Um, it's honestly a great movie, like a perfect movie. Um, and I know earlier I was saying I don't like I don't like slow movies, especially old movies. Um, and this one is slow and old, but it works. Um, surprisingly, for me at least. Like, I never got bored. I mean, there's a couple of times I almost got bored because some of the shots are really long and the scenes go on for a long time. But um, every time a new scene started, I was interested in what was going on. So, yeah. Um, I'll say it now. I gave this movie a 10 out of 10 because I think it's that good. Um, but I do admit that people who don't like slow movies probably won't like it. But I did like it, so maybe you will. I don't know. You just gotta take a gamble. Um, but I guess we should talk about what makes it so good. Um, everything does, basically. The writing is great. Like the lines the actors are saying are always, good lines, for lack of a better word than good. um, the score, which is the soundtrack, is especially amazing. It's the classic Western score with like the harmonica. Harmonica is a big part of this film. Um, and the Western, just classic showdown music that you think of when there's two cowboys standing at different sides of a town with their guns drawn and saying this town is not big enough for the both of us. If you think of the music that plays during those scenes, it probably is based on Once Upon a Time in the West scene or score. I think. I assume. I don't really know. If it's not the one that came up with it, it's the one that used it the best. I think, again. I guess I haven't actually watched many westerns. Because westerns usually bore me. And I thought this one would bore me, but it didn't. Let's see, what westerns have I seen? Once Upon a Time in the West. I saw No Country for Old Men. Django Unchained. Rango. That might be it. I should watch The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. That's on my list. Oh, and the Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, I should see that too. Those are both, I hear, are great westerns, but I haven't seen them. But anyway, yeah, the score, definitely fantastic. Oh, I fell. The cinematography is also great. There's a lot of moving shots, which is impressive for 1968. Or whatever year this came out. I think it was 1968. And they do these shots, during the showdowns, showing like the cowboys' legs are always really cool to see. So that's really cool. They do really long shots too. The first scene especially. Excuse me, what just happened? Sorry. Fall Guy is acting up today. It's a connection error. Okay. Anyway, the first scene especially is great. Especially with how little dialogue there is. It's just these three dudes show up at a train station, shove the train station worker into a closet, and lock him in there. Wait there until the protagonist shows up. Try to kill him and die. But the shots leading up to that are all really cool. It's just long shots of the three cowboys, or whatever they are, just sitting around waiting. I don't know, for some reason it was just very captivating. Like there's this scene where a fly lands on one of the bad guys' mouths and he's trying to blow it off, and it takes like 5 minutes. I mean, not that long, but it takes a long time in the shot. And one, that's impressive because how did they get the fly to do that? They didn't have CGI back then. I don't think. I mean, I know they didn't, but I don't think the fly was CGI. Maybe it was. Maybe it was a prop. I don't know. I don't know anything. What else was I saying? Oh yeah, and I don't know. It was just a cool shot for some reason. I was just interested in to see what was going to happen next for some reason. I also really liked how there's four main characters in this movie, and none of them are really like good people inherently. Like, at least they're not completely good. First of all, there's a bad guy who's obviously evil. There's the one dude who you first think is a bad guy, and then it reveals he's not really a bad guy, and he cares for the lady. So he's in the gray area. The lady main character, um, I guess isn't good either because she's kind of rude to the dudes. I don't know. And then protagonist is out for revenge from the antagonist, so I don't know if you could call him good. I mean, I guess he's good because he kills the bad guy, but I don't know. It's just interesting because they're all like morally gray characters, which is not something you see very often in older movies, at least. More common these days, but back then it was usually just good versus evil. And the fact that there's 4 different people with different motivations and different things they want in this film it works very well, I think. Um, and yeah, the writing for all these characters is great. Their performances are especially great. Um, and I liked a lot of the lines that they said. um, oh, back to the score. I forgot about this part. There's a soundtrack that's kind of like a theme song for one of the dudes that's sort of like a bad guy. Um, and I really like that theme, for one. And for two, the scene where he dies, spoiler, right before he dies, the theme is playing, and then right before he falls to the ground dead, it kind of like pauses and then does the last notes after he falls. And just that one pause just made all the difference and just made that scene so good. I don't know. I just liked it. It's just a good movie in general. It's pretty long. It's like 2 hours 45 minutes, I think, almost 3 hours. So if you don't like long movies, you might not like it. I don't normally like long movies, but I liked it, so I don't know. Maybe you'll be surprised. Um, the final showdown especially is great, I think, because the antagonist is asking the protagonist throughout the movie who you are, like why are you trying to kill me? He doesn't tell him until the very end, or he doesn't even tell him. So what happens is, I gotta explain. Protagonist has a harmonica he takes everywhere, right? He blows a specific theme to like announce his presence, and first of all, that's badass. Second of all, um, he got this harmonica from the antagonist when he was a kid. Because when he was a kid, the antagonist hanged the protagonist's brother in front of him, or in front of his brother. It doesn't say why. Obviously, he did something to him, and then the bad guy puts the harmonica in the brother's mouth. So then he keeps the harmonica, and then all this time, I guess, is going after him to try to kill him. But the antagonist obviously doesn't remember him because he was a kid at the time. And then, so right at the end, in the final showdown, once he kills the dude, the bad guy, or right before he kills him, he puts the harmonica in his mouth, which is really cool to see, I think. But yeah, I really liked that reveal, because we don't know why he's chasing down the antagonist either, so the reveal of his brother having been killed by the antagonist is great. And the only thing I would have done to make it better, not that it's not already perfect, but earlier in the movie, when the antagonist asks who the protagonist is, the protagonist multiple times says like different names of the people he has killed, the antagonist has killed. But he never says his real name, which is why we call the protagonist Harmonica. So I think Harmonica should have said the name of his brother at the end, because, you know, he killed his brother, so that would have been poetic. But we never hear his brother's name in the movie, so we wouldn't know who he's talking about. Or even Harmonica's name, so even if he said last name, we still wouldn't know who he's talking about because we don't know Harmonica's last name. So I don't know how they would work that in. Like maybe they could just mention his brother in passing. I don't know. Or something. I think it just would have been nice for them to do. That's the only thing that I think would make this movie better. But yeah, basically the whole final showdown in general, that whole scene, the music that's playing, the shots of the two actors, the reveal of why Harmonica is chasing after the antagonist, all of it is just great. I like it. Oh, but I do also think Cheyenne, who's one of the other characters, should have been involved because he was one of the main characters. Instead, he just kind of sits in the house with the girl. He should have done something in the final showdown. I don't know. But it's whatever. It was still Really good how they did it. I still gave it a 10 out of 10. Classic Western film. But I don't recommend it if you don't like Westerns, or if you don't like slow movies, or if you don't like old movies. Or maybe I do recommend it either way. Maybe you'll be surprised. I don't know. Um, I think that's all I have about Once Upon a Time in the West. Also, this movie inspired titles of other movies, like Once Upon a Time in America, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Probably some more Once Upon a Time movies. So that's cool too. At least I think inspired them. I mean, I guess Once Upon a Time is not really a trope specific to this movie, but still. Anyway, that's all I have to talk about this movie. We have one more movie to talk about, and then we'll be done. It looks like Fall Guys is not working again, unfortunately. Can you stop not working, please? Maybe I need to play a different... I don't really know what any of these are. Custom shows? No, I'll just keep going with this. Sorry, I'm not supposed to talk about Fall Guys. I'm supposed to just talk about movies and play Fall Guys silently. But it's still loading. Alright, whatever. I'll move on. So, the last movie we're going to talk about today is another movie that came out in 2022, but it didn't come out last month like the other two I talked about. This movie came out in the spring, I think March-ish, probably. It's called The Lost City. It stars Sandra Bullock, Channing Tatum, Brad Pitt, Daniel Radcliffe, and some other people. This is a rom-com, which you don't see much of these days. Rom-com adventure movie about this novelist. What's the word for novelist? Author, that's the word. Who writes rom-com adventures. And she and her cover model, who's like a very handsome bimbo-like guy, they end up in a actual rom-com adventure because of Daniel Radcliffe as the antagonist searching for jewels. Because her novels are based on history, I guess, so that's why, I don't know. So it makes the dynamic interesting how they she knows what they're talking or what's going on. Because he sorry, I completely messed up that sentence, or that whole thought. The antagonist kidnaps the author, Sandra Bullock, because she wrote about this real city, and he found it and wants to find the lost city or the lost crown in the city, and she needs to translate it for them. But she can't translate it because her husband, who's dead, that was a mean way to put it, her husband who had passed away, was the one who could translate, so she doesn't know as much, or something like that, I don't know. So they kidnap her, and then Channing Tatum goes to save her because he's secretly in love with her. Even though he's dumb and she's smart. Like, that's why he loves her, I guess. Anyway, that description did not go well, I don't know. It didn't do it justice. It's a decent movie, I think. It's good for what it is. It's pure entertainment, I think. So don't expect anything, like, artistic, really. But if you want to turn off your brain and enjoy, an adventure movie with some romance, this is a movie for you, I think. The chemistry between the main characters is great. Sandra Bullock and Channing Tatum, one, are great actors, and two, together their chemistry is good. Fantastic. I don't know. Some synonym for good. Because the fact that they are not action heroes, but they're trying to be action heroes because they got kidnapped, that dynamic is interesting. Like, Channing Tatum tries to fight on top of a car, but fails miserably. Sandra Bullock, well, I guess she doesn't really do anything that weird, or that action hero-y, but he does, and it's interesting. And he tries to save her, like heroes do, So I don't know, their dynamic was cool, and they definitely had good chemistry. I could feel the romantic tension between them. It's kind of cliche, though. I mean, I don't know if this plot has been done before, but the plot points seem pretty cliche. I mean, it's kind of self-aware though because they acknowledge throughout the movie that it feels like a book or like one of her books, and it's kind of like you can kind of equate that to movies. Um, so I guess that self-aware humor is pretty funny, but nonetheless, nevertheless, I don't know if that's the right word there. Um, it still falls into these cliches, I think, and is very predictable. Like I could see everything coming basically. Um, but it's not really a bad thing, sometimes you just need a movie that you can shut off your brain and enjoy, which is what I did. You know, I enjoyed it for the most part. I didn't think it was terrible. I didn't think it was amazing. There were a couple parts that weren't that great that I didn't like. Like there's a subplot with Beth, who is like the author's best friend. She knows she got kidnapped, so she takes it upon herself to go save her by just like flying to that island that they're on, and I don't know. I know that the only reason that subplot is in there is so they can pad the runtime out. Because the movie is not even 2 hours, I don't think. Maybe it's yeah, I think it's not even 2 hours, so they needed it to be longer. So they were like, oh, let's add this subplot about I don't know this best friend character who isn't even really that funny. I mean, I guess she was kind of funny, but sure, plot didn't need to be in the movie at all. And she also meets this character played by Oscar Nunez from The Office, who's in love with her, but also it only has like 2 scenes, and also definitely did not need to be in the movie at all. And he's not even funny. Like he puts on a Michael Scott impression, I think. Like I can, or Michael Scott slash Gru impression at least, which is funny because he was on The Office, which is where Michael Scott's from. I don't know if he did that on purpose, but like it's very obvious to me that he's trying to act like Michael Scott in the couple scenes that he's in. And it's like he doesn't even need to be in the movie, I don't think. The only reason he's there is because he tackles the bad guy at the end. Even though he didn't need to, because he was on a boat. I don't know, it was... he didn't need to be in the movie. Neither did Beth's whole subplot. But whatever, I get they were trying to pad the runtime. I didn't really laugh at their characters, but I did laugh a lot at Sandra Bullock and Channing Tatum's scenes. Or I wouldn't say I laughed a lot. I kind of chuckled at most of the scenes. Or like exhaled through my nose. Nothing made me laugh out loud, I don't think. Or maybe a couple times I laughed out loud. But nothing like hilarious is what I should say. But it's funny. You'll laugh occasionally. And you'll be entertained. The action is cool. The acting is great. Brad Pitt's character is really cool. Or not. I mean, yeah, he's cool, but it's funny how he just dies. It does feel like his death seems a bit under reacted to by the actors. Like, I mean, they get there like in a hurry because there's people shooting at them, but his head like explodes or something. I mean, he shows up in the post-credit scene somehow alive, which I choose to not believe because I don't know. Maybe it's just a dream. I don't know. Maybe it's just something to add to be funny. But it didn't really make sense that he survived. But yeah, his character was interesting because he was this perfect superhero. Or action hero, I guess I should say. And then he dies, so then the 2 bumbling idiots are on their own. Or the one bumbling idiot and the nerdy author are on their own. So that's an interesting dynamic. I also thought Radcliffe's character was very interesting. He was the villain. And I never see him as the villain in movies, I don't think. I've only seen him as Harry Potter, basically, is what I'm saying. So seeing him in a different role is interesting. Although it's kind of hard to see him not as Harry Potter, even as the villain, so... Oh, I lost? Okay. So that's not really his fault. But I thought his character was funny. His character's name is Abigail, which is funny, because he's a dude. I don't know, yeah, I liked his character. But yeah, overall, this is a solid rom-com adventure, I think. And I think it's worth watching. if you want to, shut off your brain and just enjoy something for a while, because you don't have to think about the plot very much. You can just laugh at the jokes. You can watch the action scenes. It's just a fun movie all around, basically. Um, so I gave this movie a 7 out of 10 overall. It's decent, not fantastic. Had a couple problems, but it's not bad either. Um, and yeah, I'm not gonna, as you can see, I haven't pressed start on the next game yet because that's all the movies I'm talking about today. Those 6. So I think I'm going to end the stream now. Um, so we had a good conversation today, I think, about all these movies. Beast, Secret Headquarters, and The Lost City all came out this year. 2 of them are decent movies. One of them is terrible. Secret Headquarters is the one that's terrible. I also talked about some classics like The Usual Suspects, Killer, Kindergarten Cop, and Once Upon a Time in the West. Also, very good movies. Well, no, hold on. One of them is terrible. One of them is pretty good, and one of them is amazing. So if you have seen these movies, let me know what your thoughts in the comments of this YouTube video if you are watching this on YouTube. Um, I will be streaming Movie Club again in 2 weeks because I'm moving this to every other week. Next Thursday, I'll be playing some other game. I haven't decided that yet. Also, haven't decided what movies I'm going to talk about in 2 weeks. Well, actually, I have decided one. There's this new movie I watched yesterday called They Slash Them, which is about a serial killer stalking a bunch of kids at a LGBT conversion camp. Um, Interesting premise. So we'll talk about it in 2 weeks. And then some other movies I might talk about as well. Maybe Pinocchio. There's a new Pinocchio movie out. Um, and yeah, I don't know. I'll come up with something else to watch we can talk about. Um, so if you joined the stream today, thank you very much for watching. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you very much for watching as well. For everyone watching, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for stream. John says, "Yep, thanks for being here. Um, hope you enjoy the sub that Ava gifted you." um, but yeah, if you want to see more of me, I'll be streaming next Tuesday on the Radish SMP again, more Minecraft. Um, you can follow me for more of that, and you can find more of me on my YouTube, which is also Radishologist. Um, I think that is all I have to say. I said thank you. Yeah, I said make sure to follow, subscribe, all that. Yeah, okay, cool. Yep, that's all. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.